Hello, my name's Rob Mills and I'll be your host for today's session. Today we're going to talk about Integrated Research, an ASX-listed company that leads the world in critical system, communication, payment and infrastructure monitoring and discovery. For many years now, IR has partnered with Mitrais to augment their onshore software development team. So today we're going to talk about strategies, methodologies and best practices that have successfully driven the partnership. And today I'm joined by my good friend Michael Tomkins. Welcome, Michael.
G'day.
Michael's career started out in media, where he rose to CTO at Fox Sports Australia, and after spending some time in the banking sector, Michael was appointed CTO at IR over 6 years ago. Tell us a little bit about your background, please, Michael.
So pretty easy. My background started in electronics, so typically embedded systems. I worked my way through the embedded systems world and then moved into television. I spent a bunch of time building primarily new television stations, both here and working globally as well. And then after some time in television, moved into or went to Antarctica, where I worked on the Antarctica research expeditions for 4 years. I came back and spent more time in television, where I finished up at Fox Sports. And then I moved on to a few other roles with a bit of military contracting and such along the way. So my experience is broad, but I've always been looking at basically embedded systems or software systems.
So Michael, what at the time then led you to choose Mitrais? Was it stuff like a safe choice, low risk, high quality, high security, or blended cost? What was the actual reason for choosing Mitrais?
So it's a really good question, because we went out globally to about 6 or 8 players, and we spent a bit of time, quite a few months, looking at players globally as to who had what skills in what environment, where could it be used, could we speak, a whole range. But Mitrais had a whole bunch of, I guess, tick boxes for us. So one, the time zone worked for us. So pretty much in our time zone, and we were able to create a virtual time zone where we could work together. And we integrated totally into our team. So we weren't looking for us to set requirements, throw them across the fence and you to give them back. So you actually can't tell based on our scrums who's from Mitrais and who's in our team. It's a totally integrated team. The skill base was good, and we did a lot of testing on the way in to basically make sure that our Australian developers and our Mitrais developers were equivalent. And we were also looking for a bit of domain knowledge. The assurance came from Mitrais in terms of the way in which the staff are managed. I think there are 32 different levels of engineer, and it's regularly checked, and the management of those engineers was good. Your compliance was very, very important to us in terms of the track record for you work with other Australian enterprise customers. So it kind of ticked all the boxes, and it's worked really well.
That's great. So are there any specific projects that we're partnering on at the moment? So Mitrais and Integrated Research?
So Mitrais is part of our entire development cycle. So we don't actually think of Mitrais as doing components. So if we're about to do our 13.2 release at the moment, 13.1 release at the moment. Mitrais are heavily involved on all aspects of that release. They're involved in the collaborate products parts. They're involved in the transact components. They're involved in the support components. And they've developed specialist skills along the way. As I said, based on the teams, you actually can't tell the difference between a Mitrais and an Australian employee.
So what are your top tips for blending the offshore team into the onshore team?
So for us, it's that integrated team. So we always knew that we weren't strong on writing requirements and then pushing them across and coming back. And personally, I believe it makes you go slower, a lot slower. So I wanted to be able to have them as integrated members of the team. They attend all the stand-ups, all the planning sessions. They get the pitch from product management, and the teams here have to recite or have to come back with what they interpret from product management. Mitrais take part in that. So that blended team where they're all the same, I think is critical. They're online via Teams during our time frame as well. So they're working as members of the team. They're not really separate, but they do have the ability to go on task and just be tasked to go off with other things. The other thing I'd say, from the Mitrais, we have a view here of empowerment. So therefore, a product doesn't necessarily have to define everything. They push to the engineers and say, this is the intent of what we're trying to do, and these are the broad strokes. And the engineering's empowered to go off and find the best way to do that. But also, if they think of extra things that need to come in to make that a better product, then they're empowered to do that as well. And we look to Mitrais for some of those skills also.
Great. So what have the tangible outcomes been from your perspective? I mean, has this helped improve development velocity? Has it helped to improve the total cost of development? What are the tangible outcomes?
So we have a metric that we use called VDQ. So the value of what we're building, what does it cost to build and how does it work? The quality and the velocity. And so the quality has constantly been on the rise, which is good. We have a peer review system to make sure that, we peer review Mitrais peer review us. All engineers get peer reviewed, but quality has continuously increased since about 2016. The velocity has been increasing also. So pre-COVID, we had very strong metrics around the way in which we measured our velocity. And post-COVID, our velocity has continued to increase with no less of quality. So I think that's a very, very good outcome, very, very measurable outcome. And we've been able to augment some of the skills over time. So where we haven't been able to have the skills locally, or there's been a pivot to try to do something new, we've been able to leverage some of the skills from Mitrais.
And we've talked about how the onshore team and the offshore team work very closely together. In fact, it's one team.
One team.
So do you have any insights or strategies on how to optimise this dynamic?
So what I'd say is when you first start out and you're looking for a partner, you want to set the expectation that it is one team up front, and you don't want to treat anybody differently. So we treat them the same. They have an IR email address, they're on the email, they're on all shared systems, common build pipes. There's no separation of duties. They can touch and see everything that we are, and we operate as one. And I think if you do that, you get basically one team going after the same problem at speed. And if everybody's trying to do the same thing at speed with good quality, a good oversight, happy days.
That's great. So on reflection, how do you feel about the decision to partner with Mitrais, and perhaps just what piece of final advice would you give to other companies who are considering this type of arrangement?
So it's been a very good experience, probably better than I expected. I've done this sort of thing a few times. When you first step into any augmentation, and I say augmentation rather than outsource because it's an integrated response, you will always slow down to speed up. So there will be some slowing down, some retraining at the beginning, as you would with a normal engineer coming in on site. You've got 3 months of training. There's some training to do when you bring on Mitrais. But otherwise, once that team starts to grow, the velocity starts to increase. And if you get, or when you get to, I guess, a critical mass, the Mitrais people, when we bring on new Mitrais people, they train the incomings. So it's like you've got a full team going again. So you will take a hit at the beginning. That's normal, as you would in any team, but basically that growth continues.
Yeah, and look, we've all heard stories over the years about people that have had indifferent or perhaps worse experiences working with offshore software development partners. Do you have any closing messages for anyone who's considering that type of arrangement now?
Yep, so if you're looking to augment, I'd be very clear with what your expectation is. Are you looking to basically just, if you're thinking outsource where you're flicking requirements across, it's a different proposal. But if you're looking for an integrated response, it's much safer, much more low risk. And I'd look for a mature partner who has a training program, has a way to measure the staff, is proactive and likes to meet and understand, but also a company that wants to be part of your business. A lot of, I guess, companies that I've dealt with in the past would like the work, but they're not really interested in adopting my processes or ways of working. That ways of working needs to be unified, and then you get a better result, a more integrated result, which gives you higher velocity.
Fantastic set of insights today, Michael. Thanks very much for your time. What I've heard consistently throughout that is that it's one team, it's one integrated team, that it's just as equally about lowering risk as it is about lowering cost. And the fact is that we've had a successful relationship built on now for a long time based on high trust between the two organisations.
Correct.
So, yeah, thank you for your time. That's really appreciated. So thanks again for your time today, Michael. That's fantastic. And I understand you'd be happy to take a call from anyone that's considering.
Yes, anybody who wants to talk about outsource or augmentation, very happy to have the conversation.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much. If you'd like to know more information about anything we've talked about today, or indeed partnering with an offshore software development provider, please visit mitrais.com. That's mitrais.com. Thank you.